Hey, welcome to Optimize Your Body with Martin Silva, where we talk raw, uncut facts to truly help you optimize your body. Before we get this podcast underway, I would like to inform you that we have an exclusive deal on our main training program and also on our nutrition fundamentals guide. Now, for our main full body 10-week training program, you will get game-changing results in terms of building muscle, losing body fat, and performance. And guess what? You get your money back. It's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Go over to optimizeyourbody.com, click programs, and get the OYB version 1.0 training guide, and use code OptimizeYourBody at checkout. So that's Optimize Your Body, OPTIMISE. So it's SE, not ZE at the end of Optimize Your Body. All one word. 50% off. So that's $49.99 US. We are robbing ourselves. And finally, our nutrition fundamentals guide. Normally $39.99 US. Half off this as well, 50% off. For this one, you know, whether your goal is to build muscle, lose body fat, or overall health, everything is in the guide to help you live better for longer. Use code SALE50. That's SALE, SALE50. All uppercase, the same as the other program, all uppercase at the checkout for 50% off. Don't miss out. Offer ends soon. Enjoy the podcast. Yo, so it's exactly a week out from Christmas, people. So as we speak now, it's exactly 1 week away from Christmas Day. And we're going to talk to you about how to stay lean and healthy over the festive period, because that can be a battle. But Andrew, you've just had Thanksgiving over there recently, right?
I have, Martin. Yeah, very enjoyable. You kind of get it's been pretty close to Christmas this year as well. So there's 2 big meals in a row. So it's a big season over here. But it's fairly enjoyable. It was a little bit better for me this time, Martin. You know, it's and I think last year I was a different person as well. But I think in the past it's been that kind of restrict, binge mentality I've had during the festive season. And I'm sure a lot of people are going through the same, right? Where you're dialed in all year and you're probably eating maybe a little less than you normally would. And then when it comes to Christmas Day and Thanksgiving, you just gorge on everything that you see, any snacks you have, any food. You don't eat until you're full or for enjoyment. You eat until you're ready to vomit. And it just takes the enjoyment out of the whole situation, really.
Definitely. I've been there myself, mate, as well. And
well, you've been there for Thanksgiving, I remember as well, right? And
exactly.
You kind of, we did a lot of damage that time as well. So kind of different mentality, different relationship with food now. And it makes a huge difference on the day. Like, you don't feel the need to overindulge. You just feel the need to kind of enjoy and be present in the moment, spend time with loved ones, and just make the best of the whole situation, really.
Yeah, it looked like you had a great time. But I think it's because obviously it's like one day, maybe a few days, right? Thanksgiving's one day. But I guess I think people battle a lot more, especially here, mate, in Australia, because people take a lot of time off work. You know, they take at least 2 weeks off, most people at least.
Yeah.
And for that whole time then, obviously, like you said, then people have been working hard all year. They want to de-stress, you know, drink some alcohol, which is great. You know, we need to be social at this time of year. You know, go out and eat meals, and then obviously Christmas Day. And then sometimes, like you said, it just gets a bit out of hand because you just got all this food and drink available to you. And I think a lot of people just get a bit carried away and they just struggle, like we used to, you know, struggle to, you know, obviously you want to stay, especially here, you want to stay in shape physically, right? Because it's the time of year, it's peak summer, you're on the beach a lot and stuff, but you want to feel good mentally, right? And I think that's where the war begins, right? Sometimes, because you sometimes get carried away for a few days in a row, over consuming, and then you know, we used to feel quite guilty and stuff, didn't we? And quite like, you know, we'd be punishing ourselves. Remember down in the basement on that Thanksgiving?
That was my problem. Yeah, I think I was doing step-ups and star jumps and box jumps and burpees down in the basement following Thanksgiving dinner.
Exactly.
And you were, I think it was post-show for you, right? And you didn't want to train at all. So Martin came down, felt guilty that I was training, already felt guilty about eating too much, felt guilty I was training, and then joined in the session.
Yeah.
And it was about a 2,000 rep killer workout. And that's something that,
that's when you're at your worst. That's what.
Say again?
Like. I think that's one of the worst. Like, actually, no. I've seen you worse in the past. You know what I mean? Where like obviously in Vegas when you were eating nuts and stuff in McDonald's, you'd be eating like porridge and nuts, and you were like low carbs. Yeah. However, that was to see. If I look back now, like the look on your face down in that basement, like you were so angry, bro.
Look at determination, mate, to get that workout done, right? But exactly. let's have a chat about this because, like, I think there's a misconception about how much damage people can actually do during the festive period, right? Like this podcast should be more aligned with staying healthy over this period as opposed to how do we stay lean, how do we stay in shape? Because I've been doing a bit of research and media stories dictate that you are likely to put on like 7 to 10 pounds during the period. Mm-hmm. But studies are now saying that they've been doing studies and research on this, and studies are now saying that you most likely only need to put 1 pound on.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping this podcast not only gives you good advice on how to stay healthy during the period, but also makes people a bit more relaxed going into the period, right? Like you said earlier, obviously in Australia, it's summertime now, people want to stay in shape. Like it's unlikely you're going to do that much damage in 1 day or 2 days.
No.
A lot of it will be from overeating carbohydrates, sodium, things like that. You're probably going to retain a lot of water. So you might feel visibly in the mirror, you look a little different. But for you to put on that much body fat, I think it's like a pound. Is it like a pound of weight or pound of body fat? You would have to eat 3,000 more calories than you would normally do in a day, right?
That's exactly right. So just to clarify that, right? 3,500 calories excess to put on like a pound of fat, right? So even if you ate an excess of that over a week, that's an extra 500 calories a day, right? Excess to put on a pound of fat. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a lot. Like people think, I could easily do that, right? But in reality, to go that much over what you're normally doing, if you're one of these people who, naturally tend to maintain your weight and you haven't put on loads of weight this year, then generally, to go over that 3,500 calories excess, you could do it. Andrew and I could probably at our heyday of binging could have done that in 1 hour. But the bottom line is to do that, is like you said, Andy, is quite tough to do. So it's more the emotional and mental damage that I think we should tap into here now, right? Because you said, you might feel like, I feel fat. That's what people say to me. I feel fat. In reality, it's nothing measurable. It's just water weight most of the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, you're likely to just feel that you're a little podgier, and that'll go away after a few days. I think we're overcritical of ourselves, especially looking at ourselves in the mirror, and we see things differently than others do for the most part, right? But it will come back to normal within a few days, and it leads again to we don't want you to be stressed out during this period.
No.
There's people who we're speaking to, Mark, are kind of similar to ourselves, who are constantly dialed in for most of the year. And then they'll put more emphasis and they're starting to stress and panic over the food they have to eat over Christmas now, rather than putting extra emphasis on kind of building relationships during Christmas with family, because, you're probably only likely to see your family all together probably once, twice a year if you're lucky, right?
Dude, it's such a good point.
You might not get that opportunity again until next Christmas.
It's such a good point. I think this is more relevant than ever right now, this conversation, because so many people, like it used to just be, we've discussed this before, but it used to be mainly women under the pressure, right? With the media, to look a certain way, size 0. And now it's like everyone wants big glutes like Kim Kardashian and a tiny waist. Mm-hmm. But guys are under more pressure than ever now with the emergence of social media and whatnot. And I'm seeing it more and more personally, just from what I've observed online and just in people in general. People are stressing, and there's more anxiety now around food and stress than I've ever witnessed in my time. And luckily, and we've been there, right? This is why we can sit here and have a conversation and relate to how most people are feeling, because we used to be that person, right? Where Christmas or like a special occasion would come round, and we'd be panicking a bit, right? And thinking, oh shit, how am I gonna keep my abs? How am I gonna stay lean, right? But I think, as you said, there's so many aspects to health now that you really need to tune into, like that social aspect, as we've said time and time again, the relationships and the interactions you have with the people around you. This time of year is when you should really be putting all of your energy into that. And obviously, I think, training and exercise is great, to keep your movement up, because that's going to make you feel good anyway. But in terms of going to the gym, that should not be a top priority, I think, Drew, this time of year.
Definitely not. And you're less likely to have opportunities to go to the gym during this time of year. Like the gym I'm working at is going to be shut Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, then on a Saturday the week after. So those opportunities are minimized, and the opportunities that are increased are chances to maybe go for a walk post-dinner. That'll help aid digestion, and that'll give you some family time. Also, if you have children in the family, they're never short on asking you to play with them or have some fun. So that's going to increase your movement and your activity.
I'll keep you on your toes.
Yeah, definitely, mate. It's exhausting, right? If you look at, if you're already eating excess calories and you're eating in a calorie surplus, and then all of a sudden you need to burn an extra few calories, that's quite an easy and convenient way to do it.
Definitely.
Plus, you'll have good fun with them. Especially for me and you, right? So we rarely see our families anymore in terms of our family located in Wales, right? So for us, that's a huge opportunity for us to spend time with some of the kids in the family and have some enjoyment out of that.
Definitely.
Or any extra activity you can do. You might even play games with your family, right? Or even your local rugby team. I remember we used to have a game on Boxing Day.
Yep,
great opportunity to get involved, play against some of the old players, have a laugh, right?
Yep.
And any chance you get, just to maximize that.
Definitely. And I think that's a good point you mentioned there. Like, I just brushed over activity and steps. And I think, that's something that I don't know about yourself. It seems like you've developed this habit as well. But just going for a walk after you've eaten, personally, and not to go off topic too much, but I have a hard time eating more than 3 meals a day. Right? I don't know about you. You only eat 2 or 3 times a day, don't you?
Yeah. Same.
So obviously we do intermittent fasting, but to eat more than that a day. So anyway, after each meal now, I've finally connected the dots in terms of, like, I feel so much better if I go for a walk after I've eaten. And like last night, for example, I had some stuff to do after I'd eaten. But even if I walk for 5 minutes just to the end of my road and back, it's just a habit I've developed now. And it makes total sense, because for a long, long time, ancient cultures have been doing this, right? They go for walks together after they've eaten. I think it's part of the Mediterranean culture, the Japanese. Don't quote me on that, but it's something that's been around for years, right? So there's obviously some benefit to it. But also, I think just if you're with your family, right? I mean, just going for a walk after you've eaten or going to play with the kids and stuff, I think is a great way to, because otherwise you eat these big meals or whatever, you're drinking loads of alcohol, you sit down most of the day, and that's when it's like you don't feel good. But if your goal is to obviously try and you want to feel good mentally over Christmas, but if you're trying to stay lean and keep your manage your weight over this period, then it just makes total sense to keep your activity up. But obviously you can go overboard with that as well, right, Drew?
Of course, man. And don't. It comes from the overindulging and the I'm trying to think of the word, but it comes from that mentality where overindulgement and then punishment mentality, right? Where a lot of people during this period, they think, as you talked about earlier, when I went downstairs and did an exercise routine in the basement, when people get a chance to go to the gym, they feel, right, I'm going to do the hardest session I can. I'm going to sprint on the treadmill as fast as I can. I'm going to do circuit training. I'm going to try and burn as many calories during that session because I feel that sense of guilt from eating a little bit of excessively with the food.
Yep.
But in turn, all you need to do the next day or even the day after, sometimes you have Christmas Day and leads into Boxing Day, right? So the day after, you may just be better off just skipping a meal or two, going for a nice walk, drinking plenty of water, and then returning to eating as normal as you can. Exactly. And you'll start to feel better within a few days.
Yeah. And when you say that, you make it sound like really simple, which it is really simple. But you know how hard is it, and as a coach, a fitness personal trainer, to communicate this to clients? How hard is it? Even if you've been training someone for a year or two, with that mentality, talking them into the fact that, no, we're not going to go, you haven't slept very well. You've been, you've been overindulging. And I know you want to come and see me and you want me to kick your ass right now. I know you want
that.
They
ask for that sometimes as well, Mark, right?
I know. And how do you...
if they've had a poor sleep and you're like, how was your sleep? Oh, I had like 3 or 4 hours. It was broken up. I said, okay, we're going to do a lighter session today. No, I need to go hard. I need to, we need to understand that that's an actual stressor on the body, and that's going to do you worse.
Yeah, it's going to do you worse.
Actually, any good sometimes.
And it's like feeding into a drug, right? It's like you want that mental fix so much. You want that kick of adrenaline or cortisol. that feeling of like, elation or whatever, because that is what most people attach training to. It's a workout, it's training hard. We've said this time and time again, but you're chasing that mental fix. But in reality, for what your goals are, that is not going to align with your goals. If your goal is to get in better shape, feel good, and all the other benefits that come with training, go in, like Andrew said, say, for example, now over Christmas, over the period, you overindulge, which most of us do. Going on the treadmill the next day and doing hardcore sprints and high-intensity training, in fact, just adds stress onto your body. And you know what else it does? It actually stimulates your appetite more because your output of calories is so high. Guess what? You're starving again afterwards, right? So that can be a vicious circle, right?
That's it, mate. And, during this period, talking about, you said earlier about it being excessive, right? We're excessive with things in this period. We could be excessive with our training, right? We don't need to be like that. We're also excessive during this time of year, like with family and things like that, of buying too many things, like to consume. And this pressure then for you to eat it all, right? To get rid of it out of the house.
Exactly.
Like perhaps we need to think this year, okay, we're going to not buy as many snacks, because we don't really need to snack on so much junk in between the main meals, because we're already having a huge calorific meal, right?
Yep.
And then can you bring healthier options to the party? If you've been advised to bring a dish, can your dish be a healthy option? Now, the misconception people have is that healthy is untasty. I saw a meme yesterday saying that, like, healthy food is disgusting, and underneath that it said, well, have you ever tried seasoning it and sauteing it, because it's delicious, right?
It is.
I think there's that misconception. Some healthy food is bland and horrible. If you're making it that way, yeah, it's going to be. But however, if you have the opportunity to bring it to a Christmas party, make people enjoy it, and then it takes the stress out of it as well.
Definitely. And I think, like you said, eating, we're having big meals, right? We're eating much more calories per meal. I think that mentality, as you said, of like snacking and stuff, I think, obviously, we said we do intermittent fasting, and Andrew and I tend not to eat much. We don't snack generally, right? But when it comes to the time where you've got all this food available to you, like Andrew said, we've got all this food loading up in the fridge, right? You don't have to continue, and we're not saying don't let your hair down, by the way, right? Obviously enjoy yourself. You're gonna enjoy yourself. You're gonna overindulge most likely, like I said, but just keeping it within reason, right? It's like, when you're snacking, and you feel like you have to eat all of the food that you've bought, right? Which is probably what Andrew and I'll do anyway. We're probably being hypocritical here, right? But it's just keeping it within reason, and just, when you're having those big, massive meals, like we said, go for a walk afterwards if you can. Drink plenty of water. That's a game changer. If you can just take that away from this podcast, isn't it? Just keep drinking water, because a lot of people completely stop or forget. You know what I mean? Literally, that I don't know what it is. I think it's because you get used to the flavors of all this food, and you just get bored of water. Do you know what I mean?
But also, you fill it. You can fill up on, if you're concerned, you can fill up on water first, right? Wait a little while, and then that might make you feel a little fuller and stop you over consuming those snacks anyway.
Definitely. Let's go more into the weeds there then, and so you skimmed over some stuff there. Like, how can people, because we've got all this food available to us, and alcohol and social gatherings nonstop. What tips would you give to people in terms of like little strategic methods where they can just not consume as much, basically, but still enjoy themselves? Easy win,
and this can apply to everyday life. This is something that I've built up into my regular routine is eating in a certain order, Matt. So, instead of eating, I won't go straight for the carbohydrates first or simple carbohydrates. What I will do first is I will stack up on meat or protein, if you don't eat meat, and vegetables. Now, we know that protein is a satiating macronutrient, so we're going to feel fuller, right? Vegetables also have lots of fiber. Again, we're going to feel nice and full. So that then stops me over consuming the rest, right? So if I make my plate filled with these different varieties, protein and vegetables, and then I look at other options, carbohydrates, I'm already going to be full, so it's going to be harder for me to overconsume carbohydrates, which tend to be easy to overconsume, as we know, and then it also stops me overconsuming what comes after, which is the chocolates, the cakes, and the sweets, and things like that.
And I find the thing is, I can imagine now, I'm just picturing from a listener's perspective, like I can imagine a lot of people thinking, but meat and veg is boring. You know what I mean? I don't want to eat that. You know what I mean? Like you said about, like, for us, it's lovely. Add in some salt, some dry spices, and I think a lot of people, if they'd done this, they would actually like it. But that's like you mentioned earlier, like, healthy food doesn't have to be boring. You have some, like, some meat with vegetables or whatever, yeah? If you bake the vegetables in the oven, right? Mixed vegetables or whatever, add some olive oil, maybe like half an avocado. It doesn't have to be a low-calorie meal. In fact, if you're having like half an avocado, some olive oil, some salt, some dry spices on top of that meal, that's going to keep you fuller for even longer then, because of those healthy fats and fiber in the avocado and in the veggies as well. So it doesn't have to be boring, but you just got to be a little tiny bit creative in terms of, if you don't like eating those foods, right, just add some flavor. You can add whatever even if it meant adding some, whatever it is, a little bit of sauce or something, whatever it is, as long as you're getting those nutrients in, ideally for that first meal, it changes the way you look at food. At least because the thing is, where people go wrong, and I think what we're trying to say is obviously it becomes like a pattern, right? So you have one day, let's just say you have, Christmas Eve. You eat some bad food, you go out, have a few drinks in the night, Christmas Day comes around. That's the day where most of us overconsume, right? Boxing Day comes around, you still got all of this food left over. So you get up in the morning, you go open the fridge, and you've got chocolate or whatever it is, crap food in there. You start eating that food, and that's where it becomes a slippery slope, right, Drew? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's just that hit that, as we've discussed before, the same with me. If I have a hit of sugar or things like that, then I'll just crave more of it, right? So it just means that if you're going to eat breakfast, I would generally go for something that's most people like, right? Let's just say eggs, right?
Yep.
You fill up on eggs, some avocado, right? It's going to make you feel a little bit better. You got the cholesterol from the yolks, the fat.
Even if you melt some butter into the eggs, right? And I know you do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Yeah, or a little oil or something like that, right? Some sea salt.
Yep.
I think we're skipping over how we should eat as well, right? So, like, it tends to come that we mindlessly eat in front of the TV, right? So if we can take opportunities to sit down with the family around the table, enjoy that conversation, as we discussed already, build those relationships, and chew your food slowly, right? So try not to add water when you're eating your food. That means you'll break your food down much more easily. You'll chew your food, enjoy conversation, focus more on the time with the family, and you have less focus on trying to wolf down as much food as you can in one go. That comes to mindlessly eating junk and eating in excess, right? Mm-hmm. And you might find that during that time, because you're taking your time over chewing the food, that you may eat a little less because you'll feel fuller during that time anyway.
Mm. Absolutely. And that's we're brushing over stuff we've talked about. We're just delivering it in a different way, right? Because eating in front of the TV, do you know what? I still haven't got, we're getting one now, I still haven't got a table in my house, mate, to eat food, right? So don't get me wrong, I got a table out on the balcony, right? But sometimes, I find myself basically eating in front of the TV more than I normally would. And I'm aware because it's not fully mindless, because I know what's going on here. It can be deadly, right? I think that's such an important point that you mentioned there. And I understand, right? We want to sit in front of the TV watching Home Alone, stuff in our face, right? That's totally fine. But if you're just aware, like, if you're going to do that, as a habit for the whole period, you're going to most likely eat a bit too much when you're in front of the TV, and that accumulates. So I think it's good what Andrew's saying there. It's like, again, it comes back to relationships and interactions, right? Eating on the table with family. Try and make the most of those moments, because Andrew and I can tell you now, as it might sound a bit corny or whatever, but we live away from our families. So I think he lives in New York, I live in Australia, our families are in the UK. We value it even more now. It really puts it into perspective, doesn't it, Am, when you haven't got your family there. Luckily I'm going to be seeing my family in February, but when you're not around them for Christmas time, it makes you really value those moments more. When you go back home, when you're eating with them or whatever it is on the table, having conversation, I think it makes you, obviously we build more of a healthy relationship with food as well. So we do generally eat more mindfully, although we still both eat really fast. I got to admit that last time we were together, we were still wolfing meals down pretty fast, but we have improved. Yeah. But I think it's just an important aspect, right, And?
What's that?
I think it's an important aspect, though, right? Just really, like, once again, as cheesy as it sounds, valuing the time with the loved ones, because you only get one shot of this.
Value the time, and also value the food a little differently, right? Because that, I'm not sure who cooks in your family, whoever's listening to this, or there may be a variety of cooks, right? So why not value that food you're eating more? Like, for example, like, say my mother made a nice stuffing, right? So I love my mother's stuffing, right? So I'm going to value and enjoy the taste of that rather than trying to wolf it down as quickly as possible for the next part of the meal.
Lovely.
Same. Why am I trying to eat like some processed chocolate as well, where I can get more nutrition from a variety of foods that someone else has made as well? So it's just valuing the food differently, valuing the time, valuing the taste a little bit differently, and valuing how it makes you feel afterwards. I found that in the past, when I was eating Christmas dinner, I would eat a huge plate of dinner, as much dessert as I could, as many chocolates as I could, and I did not feel good afterwards. I would want to vomit, or I'd feel sick. I'd feel full up to my throat, right?
Yep.
I'd want to sleep. I had no energy. It was lethargic.
You're not present.
Didn't even want
You're
to
not
spend
present,
time with the
You're
kids,
just in your own
right?
little world. Yeah.
Huh?
You're not present, are you, at that point? You're just in your own little world. You're just absolutely bloated and,
Yeah. I think it's a case of not overdoing it, right? Don't eat until you want to vomit. Just eat until you feel generally full. And then enjoy that part of the food, enjoy that part of the time. And then afterwards, if you want to eat more, then eat more. But just don't kind of try and wolf it. That again comes to what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, to the binge mentality, right? You're restricting and then you binge. So this opportunity comes once a year. You've been sacrificing for 3 months before. You haven't eaten any junk food or anything like that. And then you all of a sudden have that 1 day or 2 days and you're going to just eat as much as you can and then cut it off altogether afterwards. So,
and I think the overarching theme of this podcast really is kind of like, and by the way, we're no experts in this field, but self-awareness and mindfulness, right, is something that Andrew and I are tuning more and more into. And I think it's kind of like the most important thing, really. I think this time of year, like Andrew said, if there's someone, everyone's got someone in their family or a few people in their family who cooked speciality things, right? Like you mentioned, the stuff in, whether it's cakes or whatever it is, enjoy the flavors. Just try and take that away from this podcast. Enjoy and have fun with what you're doing and the people around you. I think that's the key thing. But if we segue a little bit into training methods, because I know a lot of people listen to this, still going to get a few sessions in over Christmas. Advice I would give is to, if you're going to be eating more calories than usual, because most people don't do this kind of training, it's a perfect time to start like a strength training phase. I think if you are going to go to the gym a couple of times a week, why not lift hard and heavy? I mean, but then, like you said, that could go the other way though, because it's a new stimulus as well, right? So it's an added. So I think there's a few variables there, right?
Yeah, you can definitely utilize those extra calories that you're eating, Matt. So put those to good use in the gym if you get the opportunity, right?
Yep.
And I guess again, it comes down, you can add obviously a new modality in and you can start strength training, or you just don't panic and you continue with your same routine and things will return to normal within a week or less, so.
Yep. That's exactly
right. But certainly, you should anyway with your training program, you should be following and utilizing the strength routine as often as you can. As we always talk about this, you want to build as much muscle as you can. So during these periods of time, like Christmas or even daily, you can then burn more calories. Eat more calories with all the extra muscle you packed on anyway. So your metabolism will be sped up, and it'll make it easier during these times of year to eat more because you won't have to be sacrificing a full year doing loads of cardio, eating little calories, and it'll just become easier during these times. You can eat that a little bit more and get away with it, I guess.
Exactly, it's the perfect time to build muscle and metabolism, providing like we said, you're not eating processed foods constantly. As long as you're getting a few good meals in here and there, like Andrew mentioned earlier, some nice salads, some meat and veggies, or whatever it is, you're still gonna convert that into muscle and build a metabolism. So it's a good time to go and do those big lifts. Go and do your squats, your deadlifts, those big compound movements, hard and heavy. And just do it. If you're going to train minimal, just do a couple of them a week, and it's gonna pay more dividends than what you would go in with that punishment mentality, sprinting on the treadmill, doing burpees and all this crazy CrossFit shit. You know what I mean?
When you're feeling like shit anyway, right?
Exactly.
Let's talk about, we haven't discussed kind of alcohol, mate. How do you find alcohol during this time of year? I'm sure your intake increases a little bit, right?
Yeah, definitely, mate. 100%. So for me, it's like... Yeah, like this Saturday, for example, I'm catching up with my mate and his missus, and me and my missus are going with them for some food and a few drinks and stuff. So I know that's going to get out of hand alcohol-wise. And then obviously Christmas Eve. So the way I look at it is like I'll enjoy, like going back to what we said, right? Enjoy the time with those people, right? That's the most important thing. Alcohol, it does help us on a social level, regardless of what people say, unless it's excessive, like we said, having a few drinks here and there. But it probably will be excessive this Saturday. And what I'll do the next day, then I'll just, I'll probably eat a lot as well because we're going out for food. So I'll probably just drink more water in the morning. I'll drink water in between. That's a key. Actually, that's a key.
In between, definitely. Man. I agree with that.
Yeah, in between drinks, hydration,
yes.
Man. 90% of a hangover pretty much is just dehydration, right?
Yes, and that also stops you kind of, if you're in a social situation with new people, it stops you getting too sloppy, right? And stop you becoming antisocial, right? I used to be a sucker for this. I used to drink so much that I was just a mess. Like
that time when you were sleeping on my doormat, when you face planted on my doormat. I opened the door, Andrew's lying there dribbling on my doormat. And then you got ill. You caught something from that doormat, right?
Yeah, I've slept in a few places I shouldn't have when I was drinking alcohol. So I think it's just now that I've finally matured, I kind of know my limit.
Yeah,
and I think it's like I said, the key is to kind of sip water in between if you can.
Yep. That's
going to minimize the hangover, and it's just again a big thing with alcohol. It lowers inhibitions. I didn't give a shit about sleeping on your doorstep, right?
Yep.
Normally I would just get in my bed and just have a nice sleep, but subconsciously I sat down there and went to sleep.
Yep.
But even with making decisions about foods that you eat, if you're Christmas Day, then you're like, oh, bugger this, I'm just going to eat what I want. And that could obviously backfire on you a little bit. And even the next day, I find that I went out, I think it was last weekend or the weekend before, had a few drinks. The next day I was kind of craving kind of junk food, like salty food.
Yep.
So just be aware of that and just try and make the right choices when you wake up, like fill up on water. If you need to eat breakfast, eat a decent breakfast and move on from there, as opposed to just, like you alluded to earlier about going in the fridge and grabbing the chocolates and then your day goes downhill from there,
exactly.
Right?
Just get some nutrients in. Even something as simple as just making like a smoothie throw some kale in there, some fruit, you know what I mean? Just make like a healthy, anything you can do just to get some extra nutrients in. And water is a game changer. Obviously, that's number one. You got to stay high. Like, I think this relates to anything, right? You don't need, it's not rocket science. But when you're eating crap foods as well, drink water in between. Try not to snack in between and just drink more water. It makes a big difference, not just to how you look, but how you feel. Like, it's night and day difference, right? The body's 70% water. But what I was going to say then is in terms of, I lost what I was going to say then. But yeah, when you're drinking, activated charcoal, I was a bit skeptical about Anne before. Activated charcoal seems to do something. I'm not sure about you. But if I'd say you can get this supplement in the stores and stuff. And if you take activated charcoal like days, or just take it like a day or two before you're about to indulge, and just take it. You can just take it all the way through the period. And I think it seems to help because it helps bind the toxins out, right?
I took it the next day actually, and I still was severely hungover, Mark. So I don't know.
I think you meant to take it like the day before,
maybe building up, right?
And on the day and the day after.
I think for me the biggest thing is sleep, like as well. As much sleep as you can get. If you have a day off work, try and utilize that. And that again, you're drinking a lot of alcohol, you're not drinking water in between, then your sleep's going to be affected, right? You're probably going to pass out and not get a quality of sleep. So I think that's what happened to me. Although I drank water when I got back in, I was definitely suffering the next day because I had to get up early to work. I had activated charcoal, still had a stinking hangover. But I've heard good things about that, but it's never really helped me. So I think I'm doing it right.
It works for me, but I don't know how much of it's placebo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
And the fact that it makes your poo black as well, I feel like it's doing something.
And it's very black. It's going to come out like it's in your blender. It's going to blacken up the blender as well. So just be aware of that.
Or the poo or the jug.
I haven't put poo in the blender yet. No. Maybe if I have too many drinks, I might. But.
So I guess that's pretty much it. I think we covered all the main points there, mate.
I think this, any of this we're talking about now can be related to day to day anyway.
Yep.
Like if you're drinking, drink water in between. If you're when you eat in order of protein and vegetables first. It's all relative to get more sleep. It's all strength training. It's all relative to what we do in our daily aspects of our life anyway. So there's no difference here. So if you have built up that relationship with food and exercise on a level for over the years, then these type of things will become a lot easier, right?
Exactly. And if you are someone who lifts weights regular, which a lot of people who listen to this podcast are in that category, and you lift weights regular and you're going to continue to lift over the period, even if it's a few sessions a week, just keep in mind, like ideally every 3 days, right? We've said this before, but up to about 72 hours, right? Providing you're training properly, you're going to get a muscle building signal lasting for between 24 and 72 hours. So just think, 3 days after, 3-4 days, if you can do a session every 3-4 days, providing it's purposeful and you're, hitting the whole body as we mentioned before, so you're, hitting every body part or at least the big body parts. That's going to keep you. It's going to keep you feeling good, but it's going to keep you on point. And also the activity, as you mentioned, like Andrew said, you can apply this to day-to-day life. Walking after each meal is a great thing, and if you can do it, you don't want to be isolating yourself at the same time. Though you don't want to be going, I've got to go for my walk after I've eaten and leaving everyone. That kind of takes you away from what we're talking about. But if you can go for a walk with family after your meals and promote that, or just in the mornings when you get up, if you can just get up and go for a 20-minute walk in the mornings, that compound effect all adds up, in terms of the calorie output and how you feel. It sets you up for the day. So, yeah, simple is really, Drew. It's all going back to basics, right?
Back to basics, Mark. Yeah. And also, we don't want you stressing over this period. Just be mindful, be aware. And look at it a little differently. Like, obviously, try and build some good relationships with your family. Be present, be in the moment, enjoy the food, but don't overindulge. There's no need for it.
Yeah. And if you do, don't, because most people probably are.
Don't panic.
Yeah, don't panic. That's the key thing. It's not what you do when you overindulge, it's what you do after the next day.
Don't feel guilty about it, I think, as well, is the big thing, because often people associate food with guilt.
Yep.
And that's where the issues start to come in, and that affects your relationship with food, right? Just it's food, eat it, move on, and then go back to practicing the skills that you're starting to develop as we speak, and keep on improving as much as you can, and it takes time.
Definitely. So yeah, just that self-awareness element, and that's something I'm going to once again tune into now this year, really try and be as present as I can. And I think that's the key thing, really, folks. But the guilt thing is a very important point Andrew made there. Don't feel guilty. It's most likely going to happen, but it's not about what you eat. Let's say you eat in excess of 1,000, 2,000 calories in one day, and then you do it again the next day. It's fine. The following day, just try and pull it back a little bit. Just try and don't eat like an arsehole, just like Jordan Side says, right? I think I'll call the episode that. Don't eat like an arsehole.
Yes,
simple.
Why not?
Nice one, Drew, man. I appreciate you chiming in. It was great to have you back on, man. I'm sure the audience will love this one.
Thank you, sir. Enjoyed it. I'm out of hibernation now, so I'm back on track.
Back on track, my man. Speak to you in a bit, bro.
Nice, mate. Happy Christmas.
You too, mate. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to go follow me on Instagram at Martin Silva Fitness, and Andrew is at Mr. Bond Fitness. Also, if you like this podcast, please give us a rating and review on iTunes. That would be a massive help. We need those ratings and reviews to help this podcast grow. Thank you.